June 1943. Camp McCain, Mississippi. The golden stack rising from the metal tray defied everything. Oberfeldwebel Heinrich Mueller knew about war, captivity, and the natural order of scarcity that had governed his world for 4 years. 6 perfectly round discs, each the diameter of a dinner plate, stacked with geometric precision and crowned with a square of butter that melted into rivulets of yellow abundance. Beside them, strips of bacon lay in crispy formation, their edges curled and glistening with rendered fat. 3 eggs, scrambled to fluffy perfection, occupied another section of the compartmented tray. At the same time, 2 slices of white bread, buttered and warm, completed what the American mess sergeant had casually announced as Tuesday breakfast. Mueller, a veteran of the Afrika Korps, who had survived 2 years of desert warfare on increasingly meager rations, stared at the impossible meal before him. The mathematical impossibility struck him first. This single breakfast contained more calories than he had consumed in entire days during the final months before Tunis fell. The bacon alone represented more meat than German soldiers received weekly when rations were available. The butter, melting carelessly into the pancakes, exceeded what German civilians might obtain monthly through official channels if they possessed the proper documentation and stood in the correct lines at precisely the right time. The pancakes themselves challenged his understanding of wartime economics. Each golden disc required flour, eggs, milk, baking powder, sugar, and salt, ingredients that had vanished from German tables years before the war's end. The casual abundance of white flour astounded him most. In Germany, ersatz bread made from sawdust, potato peels, and ground acorns had become the norm. Here American prison guards served enemy soldiers bread made from pure wheat flour, soft and white as the cotton that grew in the fields surrounding the camp. The syrup arrived in a separate container, dark amber liquid that an American guard explained was real maple syrup from Vermont. Mueller had never tasted maple syrup, had never imagined that trees could be harvested for sweetness. He drizzled it experimentally over the pancakes, watching it soak into the spongy texture, creating pools of sweetness that would have constituted luxury beyond imagination in the Germany he remembered. The mathematical calculations ran involuntarily through his mind. Vermont, one of the 48 American states among 48, produced enough maple syrup to supply German prisoners of war with unlimited sweetener. How vast must American agricultural capacity be if a single state's specialty crop could be casually distributed to enemies? The coffee presented its own revelation, real coffee, black and aromatic, with cream available upon request and sugar dispensed freely from bowls placed on every table. The contrast with German ersatz coffee, concocted from roasted acorns and chicory when available, marked the difference between 2 civilizations. Mueller had not tasted actual coffee since 1941. The American guards drank identical coffee, he observed, from identical cups, as if the distinction between captor and prisoner dissolved in the democracy of the breakfast service. Military quartermaster records from Camp McCain would later document the precise cost and contents of this meal that so astounded Oberfeldwebel Mueller. Each breakfast serving cost the United States Army 45 cents, equivalent to $7.50 in contemporary currency. The pancake recipe required 2 eggs, half a cup of flour, a quarter cup of milk, a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a pinch of salt per serving. 6 pancakes per prisoner meant 12 eggs, 3 cups of flour, and 1.5 cups of milk for a single man's morning meal. Multiplied across 425,000 German prisoners of war held in American camps by summer 1943, the daily breakfast consumption reached industrial proportions that dwarfed entire sectors of German food production. The bacon statistics proved even more revealing. Camp McCain served 50 pounds of bacon daily to its population of 1,000 prisoners. American pork production in 1943 reached £13 billion annually, a figure that encompassed more meat than Germany produced in total agricultural output. A single strip of bacon on Mueller's tray contained more protein than many German civilians received weekly. The casual abundance with which guards served seconds, thirds, and even fourth helpings to prisoners who requested them contradicted every principle of wartime resource management that Mueller understood. The bread accompanied each meal without rationing or restriction. Fresh white bread, baked daily in camp bakeries that operated around-the-clock shifts. The wheat required for daily bread production at Camp McCain alone exceeded what many German communities received monthly through official distribution channels. American wheat production in 1943 totaled 840 million bushels, a harvest so abundant that feeding prisoners luxury bread made no noticeable impact on civilian availability. As Mueller consumed his first American breakfast, tasting maple syrup and real coffee, while German children subsisted on turnip soup and acorn bread, the fundamental assumptions underlying Nazi ideology began their systematic dissolution. This was not special treatment designed to impress prisoners. The guards ate identical food, the portions were standard, the quality reflected routine rather than exception. This impossible breakfast was Tuesday morning in America, repeated daily across thousands of camps, served to nearly 500,000 enemy soldiers without apparent strain on American resources. The transformation had begun with breakfast, though Mueller could not yet comprehend its scope or permanence. He knew only that his worldview was being systematically dismantled, one forkful of pancake at a time. Behind the impossible breakfast lay an industrial machine that German prisoners could scarcely comprehend. By summer 1943, as Heinrich Mueller and thousands of other Afrika Korps veterans settled into the rhythm of American captivity, they began witnessing the vast production networks that made their daily abundance possible. When German engineers among the prisoners calculated the numbers revealed a civilization operating on scales that challenged every assumption about wartime economics and national capacity. The eggs alone told a story of staggering abundance. American hens produced 60 billion eggs annually in 1943, a figure that German agricultural specialists initially dismissed as propaganda until they witnessed first-hand evidence. Each morning at Camp McCain, the kitchen staff cracked 2,000 fresh eggs for scrambled preparation, plus additional eggs incorporated into pancake batter, French toast mixture, and breakfast pastries. The refrigerated railway cars that delivered these eggs weekly traveled from Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio farms where industrial chicken operations housed hundreds of thousands of birds in mechanized facilities that exceeded anything German agriculture had achieved even in peacetime. The contrast proved devastating to German observers. Entire German agricultural regions could not produce enough eggs to supply a single large American city for 1 week. Yet American abundance was so systematic that camp commanders never worried about shortages. The supply chain functioned with clockwork precision, delivering fresh eggs to 511 prisoner of war camps across the continental United States without apparent strain on civilian availability. German prisoners working kitchen duty reported that eggs were occasionally discarded for minor quality defects that German households would never have noticed, much less rejected. Wheat production revealed even more dramatic disparities. American farmers harvested 840 million bushels of wheat in 1943, creating such abundance that feeding luxury bread to enemy prisoners represented a negligible drain on national resources. Camp McCain's bakery, operating in 3 shifts around the clock, produced fresh white bread daily, using flour milled from premium wheat that German civilians had not seen since before the war began. The bakery's industrial ovens, fired by natural gas that flowed through underground pipelines, could produce 3,000 loaves per day, each loaf containing more refined flour than many German families received monthly through official ration systems. The flour arrived in 100-pound sacks delivered weekly by truck convoys, demonstrating American transportation capacity exceeding German military logistics. These trucks, manufactured in Detroit assembly plants that produced vehicles faster than German factories could repair existing equipment, traveled on highway networks that connected every American community to industrial centers. The systematic efficiency with which ingredients reached remote prison camps in Mississippi, Texas, and Montana revealed organizational capabilities that German general staff officers found more impressive than American military tactics. Coffee presented its own revelation of American abundance. The United States imported and consumed coffee at rates that staggered German observers accustomed to ersatz substitutes made from roasted acorns, chicory, and dandelion roots. American coffee consumption averaged 13 pounds per person annually, meaning single individuals consumed more real coffee yearly than entire German communities might obtain through black market connections. At Camp McCain, coffee flowed unlimited from industrial percolators that brewed fresh batches every 2 hours. Guards offered refills casually, as if the precious beans that German civilians hoarded were as common as water. The bacon supply chain demonstrated American agricultural industrialization that exceeded German comprehension. Iowa pork processing facilities, operated by companies like Armour and Swift, slaughtered and processed hogs on assembly lines that handled thousands of animals daily. The mechanized efficiency, from breeding farms through slaughterhouses to packaging plants, represented a systematic organization that German observers compared favorably to their own military precision. Single American meatpacking plants processed more protein monthly than entire German agricultural regions produced annually. Quality standards proved equally astounding. American bacon was graded by federal inspectors who rejected products for minor defects that would have represented luxury in wartime Germany. Even standard-grade American bacon, the lowest acceptable quality, exceeded the meat rations reserved for German officers. The casual abundance with which camp mess halls served multiple strips per prisoner, offering seconds and thirds upon request, contradicted every principle of wartime resource management that German military doctrine emphasized. The orange juice revolution simultaneously challenged the German understanding of nutrition and abundance. Florida citrus groves produced over 100 million boxes of oranges annually, creating such abundance that fresh juice was squeezed daily rather than carefully preserved. A single glass of orange juice contained more vitamin C than German soldiers received monthly through official rations, explaining why American prisoners showed dramatic health improvements while German civilians suffered increasing malnutrition. The technology of frozen concentrate, newly developed by American food scientists, allowed orange juice to be distributed nationwide, bringing Florida sunshine to Mississippi breakfast tables. Refrigeration technology underpinned the entire system of abundance. Railway cars equipped with mechanical cooling systems transported fresh ingredients across continental distances, maintaining quality throughout journeys that would have spoiled food in German transportation networks. Camp kitchens featured walk-in refrigerators, larger than most German family homes, storing weeks of fresh ingredients without spoilage, concerns that dominated German meal planning. The mathematical precision of American food distribution impressed German engineers and logisticians who had struggled with supply shortages throughout their military service. Transportation schedules coordinated deliveries from dozens of states to hundreds of camps with reliability that exceeded German military supply efficiency. This systematic abundance, witnessed daily through breakfast service, began teaching German prisoners that American power derived from productive capacity rather than conquest, creation rather than extraction, abundance rather than careful rationing of perpetual scarcity. As seasons changed in American prison camps, German prisoners discovered that their impossible breakfast was merely the beginning of American food abundance. What they had assumed was special treatment revealed itself as routine plenty that varied with holidays, regions, and the casual whims of American cooks who seemed unaware that they were performing daily miracles of abundance. Sunday mornings brought French toast that challenged every assumption about wartime luxury, thick slices of white bread soaked in a mixture of eggs, milk, and cinnamon, then grilled until golden and served with powdered sugar that fell like snow over each portion. The powdered sugar alone represented wealth beyond German imagination. In Germany, any form of refined sugar required special permits, long waiting lines, and connections with party officials. Here, American cooks dusted it freely over French toast served to enemy prisoners, brushing excess sugar into waste bins without concern. The hash browns accompanying Sunday breakfast demonstrated American potato abundance that staggered German agricultural experts among the prisoners. Fresh potatoes, peeled and shredded, are then fried in butter until crispy and golden brown. The casual use of butter for cooking, rather than carefully saving every gram for special occasions, showed wealth that German families had not known even before the war. Single breakfast servings used more butter than German civilians received monthly through official ration cards. Holiday breakfasts revealed American abundance reaching levels that seemed like fantasy to German observers. Christmas morning 1943 brought ham steaks thick as German encyclopedias, eggs prepared Benedict style with rich yellow sauce, and fresh biscuits with real honey that arrived in glass jars from American beekeepers. The honey itself told stories of abundance. American bees produced enough honey that prisoners could spread it thickly on warm biscuits without measuring or rationing. German prisoners had not seen honey since childhood memories of peacetime plenty. New Year's Day introduced German prisoners to American traditions they had never imagined. Black-eyed peas served for good luck, cornbread made with real cornmeal, and thick slices of ham that represented more meat than German soldiers received weekly during active combat. The cornbread particularly amazed German prisoners. Made from yellow cornmeal, eggs, milk, and butter, it represented agricultural diversity that German farming could not match. America grew so much corn that grinding it into meals for prisoners, such as breakfast bread, created no supply concerns. Easter 1945 brought colored eggs that German prisoners initially mistook for children's toys. Real eggs, hard-boiled and dyed with bright colors, served alongside sweet rolls filled with cinnamon and sugar glaze. The waste of perfectly good eggs for decoration shocked German sensibilities trained by years of scarcity. These colored eggs, discarded after breakfast display, contained more protein than German children received weekly through official food distributions. Regional differences in American breakfast culture taught German prisoners about national diversity that their propaganda had denied existed. Southern camps served grits made from ground white corn, smooth and creamy with butter melting into pale yellow pools. Country ham, which was salt-cured and aged, provided flavors that German prisoners compared to the finest delicacies their families had enjoyed during pre-war prosperity. Biscuits light as air, made with real buttermilk and lard, soaked up sausage gravy thick with milk and black pepper. Western camps introduced sourdough pancakes that fermented slowly, creating tangy flavors German prisoners had never experienced. Steak and eggs appeared regularly on Western camp menus, thick beef steaks grilled medium rare and served with eggs cooked any style prisoners requested. The casual abundance of beef shocked German observers who had not eaten steak since peacetime memories. Single breakfast steaks contained more meat than German families received monthly through all official channels combined. Northern camps brought maple syrup in quantities that seemed impossible. Vermont and New Hampshire maple farms produced enough syrup that prison camps received weekly deliveries of gallon containers. The syrup flowed freely over pancakes, French toast and waffles without measurement or concern for waste. German prisoners calculated that single breakfast servings of maple syrup cost more than German workers earned daily, if such a luxury could be obtained at all. The waste that accompanied this abundance created the most profound shock for German sensibilities. Kitchen workers routinely discarded food for minor imperfections that German households would have treasured. Eggs with small cracks went into the garbage bins. Bread that was 1 day old was replaced with fresh loaves. Milk, approaching its expiration date, was poured down drains rather than carefully consumed before spoiling. American civilian employees at camps ate identical breakfasts. German prisoners observed no special foods were reserved for guards or administrators. The democracy of abundance meant that everyone from camp commanders to kitchen workers to enemy prisoners ate the same high-quality meals prepared in the same kitchens using identical ingredients. This equality of treatment contradicted German social systems, where different classes ate different qualities of food even during peacetime prosperity. The normality of luxury became the most profound lesson. What German prisoners initially viewed as celebration food designed to impress captives revealed itself as routine American breakfast culture. Children ate similar meals before attending school. Workers consumed comparable breakfasts before beginning factory shifts. The abundance that amazed German prisoners was simply Tuesday morning in America, repeated daily across a continent where plenty had become so common that sharing it with enemies required no special consideration or expense. By 1944, Over 100,000 German prisoners worked outside camp boundaries, laboring on American farms and in food processing facilities, where they witnessed firsthand the industrial systems that created their daily breakfast abundance. These work details provided German prisoners with intimate knowledge of American agricultural capacity that exceeded anything Nazi intelligence had estimated or imagined possible. Heinrich Mueller found himself assigned to an Iowa egg farm where industrial chicken operations housed 50,000 hens in mechanized facilities that dwarfed anything German agriculture had achieved. The systematic efficiency astounded him. Conveyor belts transported feed automatically to every cage. Fresh water flowed continuously through pipes that reached each bird. Electric lights extended daylight hours, encouraging hens to lay eggs at rates that German agricultural experts would have dismissed as impossible propaganda. The mathematics of production overwhelmed German calculations. This single Iowa farm produced 40,000 eggs daily, enough to supply breakfast for 20 American prison camps. The farmer, a middle-aged man named Johnson who treated German prisoners with casual courtesy, explained that his operation represented typical American egg production. Iowa alone housed millions of laying hens in similar facilities scattered across the state. The eggs that had so amazed German prisoners at breakfast represented a tiny fraction of American production capacity. Quality control standards shocked German sensibilities, trained by years of scarcity. Eggs were graded by size, color, and shell integrity, using standards that rejected perfectly edible products for minor aesthetic imperfections. Grade B eggs, considered unsuitable for retail sale, exceeded the quality of eggs that German civilians might obtain through black market connections, requiring significant risk and expense. These rejected eggs were typically sold to bakeries and food processors at reduced prices, ensuring that even American industrial food production maintained standards that surpassed German luxury. German prisoners working in flour mills witnessed wheat processing on scales that challenged their understanding of agricultural possibilities. Single mills in Kansas processed more wheat daily than entire German regions produced annually. The Washburn-Crosby Mill in Minneapolis, where 12 German prisoners worked under minimal supervision, processed 10,000 bushels of grain daily into flour, grades ranging from premium cake flour to standard bread flour. The rejected wheat, considered unsuitable for human consumption due to minor imperfections, was diverted to livestock feed that provided better nutrition than many German civilians received through official rations. The transportation networks that delivered these ingredients to prison camps revealed organizational capacity that exceeded German military logistics. Refrigerated railway cars maintained precise temperatures during 1,000-mile journeys from production facilities to distribution centers. Truck convoys operated on highway systems that connected every American community to industrial centers, ensuring that fresh ingredients reached remote prison camps in Montana, Texas, and Mississippi without supply interruptions that plagued German military operations even during successful campaigns. German prisoners assigned to meat-packing plants in Chicago witnessed industrial slaughter and processing that represented the ultimate expression of American abundance. The Swift and Armour facilities processed thousands of hogs daily on assembly lines that moved with mechanical precision from slaughter through butchering to packaging. Single plants produced more bacon weekly than entire German regions could process annually using traditional methods. The efficiency impressed German engineers who had designed military equipment, revealing industrial capacity that explained the American ability to feed millions of soldiers worldwide while maintaining civilian abundance. Distribution networks demonstrated a systematic organization that German general staff officers found more impressive than American military tactics. Cold storage facilities maintained fresh meat at precise temperatures during transport from Chicago processing plants to prison camps across the continental United States. The casual abundance with which camp kitchens discarded meat for minor quality defects revealed supply systems so reliable that waste created no concern about future availability. American dairy operations exposed German prisoners to agricultural mechanization that exceeded their comprehension. Wisconsin dairy farms used electric milking machines that processed hundreds of cows daily with efficiency that surpassed German industrial production methods. The milk that flowed in unlimited quantities at breakfast represented a fraction of American dairy production that reached £119 billion annually. Single American dairy cooperatives processed more milk monthly than Germany produced in an entire agricultural season. Processing facilities revealed American technological advancement that explained breakfast abundance. Butter churns operated by electric motors produced thousands of pounds daily. Pasteurization equipment ensured safety standards that allowed fresh dairy products to travel continental distances without spoilage concerns. The casual use of butter for cooking, rather than careful preservation for special occasions, reflected production capacity, making luxury ingredients common enough to waste without economic impact. Restaurant industry exposure provided German prisoners with insights into American consumer culture that challenged every assumption about wartime priorities. Work details at civilian diners revealed that American workers ate breakfast meals comparable to what German prisoners received in camps. Menu variety exceeded German restaurant offerings during peacetime prosperity. The democratic abundance meant that factory workers and bank presidents ate identical meals at adjacent counter stalls, served by the same waitress for the same reasonable prices. German prisoners working in American food service industries learned that abundance created different value systems than scarcity. Food waste that would have horrified German households was considered standard business practice. Restaurant kitchens discarded ingredients that approached expiration dates rather than carefully managing inventory to prevent spoilage. The abundance was so systematic that preventing waste required more effort than replacing discarded ingredients with fresh supplies delivered daily by reliable transportation networks. When Heinrich Mueller stepped off the Liberty ship at Hamburg in March 1946, his uniform hung loosely on a frame that had gained 37 pounds during American captivity. His family, gathered at the dock to welcome home their prisoner of war, stared in disbelief at his healthy appearance. His wife had lost 22 pounds during the final year of war and subsequent Allied occupation. His children, ages 8 and 12, showed signs of malnutrition that contrasted sharply with their father's robust condition. The physical evidence of American abundance versus German deprivation was written in flesh and bone, undeniable proof of everything Mueller had witnessed during 3 years of captivity. The stories he told seemed fantastic to German ears, trained by years of propaganda about American weakness. His description of daily pancakes with real maple syrup, unlimited butter, fresh eggs, and bacon strips met with polite disbelief from family members who had survived on turnip soup, ersatz bread, and periodic rations of horse meat when available. His wife, Martha, initially accused him of elaborating prison camp conditions to spare family feelings about his captivity experience. The children listened with wide eyes to tales of ice cream, orange juice, and coffee with cream and sugar, treating these accounts as fairy tales rather than daily reality their father had experienced. Validation came gradually as American aid programs began operating in occupied Germany. The first Marshall Plan shipments in 1947 included food products that confirmed Mueller's seemingly impossible stories. Real coffee arrived in 50-pound sacks distributed through American relief organizations. White flour appeared in German stores for the first time since before the war began. The Hershey chocolate bars that Mueller had described eating casually in American prison camps became precious gifts that German children treasured like family heirlooms. Former German prisoners became unexpected advocates for American aid programs, their testimony carrying weight that official propaganda could not match. They had witnessed American productive capacity operating at wartime levels while maintaining abundance that exceeded German peacetime standards. When skeptical German politicians questioned American motives for providing aid to former enemies, former prisoners of war provided detailed accounts of American generosity extending even to captured soldiers. Their personal experiences proved that American power came from creation rather than conquest, productive capacity rather than extraction. The breakfast foods that had so amazed German prisoners began appearing in German cities during the early 1950s, often imported by former prisoners who understood their appeal from personal experience. Pancake mixes arrived in German stores, accompanied by artificial maple syrup that approximated the Vermont abundance Mueller remembered. American-style bacon, processed and packaged using methods former prisoners had observed in Iowa processing plants, commanded premium prices that reflected its status as a luxury import. Coffee culture transformation marked the most visible change influenced by prisoner experiences. German civilians who had survived on ersatz substitutes made from roasted acorns and chicory roots encountered real coffee through American aid programs and imports facilitated by former prisoners who knew its value. Coffee houses modeling American diners appeared in German cities, serving breakfast combinations that former prisoners recognized from their captivity meals. The democratic abundance of unlimited coffee refills, standard practice in American camps, became a selling point for German establishments seeking to attract customers with memories of scarcity. Restaurant chains introducing American breakfast concepts found their most enthusiastic supporters among former prisoners of war who understood that these foods represented more than nutrition. Pancake houses appeared in major German cities by 1954, often financed by former prisoners who had saved money during captivity and observed American food service operations firsthand. They knew these restaurants symbolized abundance, democracy, and modernity that German consumers were ready to embrace after years of deprivation. The generational impact extended beyond individual families to shape entire communities. Children of former prisoners grew up hearing detailed stories about American abundance that seemed mythical until validated by the post-war recovery. These second-generation Germans often pursued educational opportunities in America, drawn by family narratives of impossible plenty that had proven true. University exchange programs and business partnerships frequently involved families whose fathers had experienced American hospitality as prisoners of war. Former prisoner testimonies, collected by historians during the 1970s and 1980s, consistently identified breakfast abundance as the most transformative aspect of their American captivity. A former Africa Corps sergeant interviewed in 1978 recalled, "The first morning I couldn't finish my pancakes because there were too many. I knew we had lost more than a war. We had lost our understanding of what was possible in the world." Another veteran stated in a 1983 documentary, "My children thought I was telling stories about America until McDonald's came to Germany. Then they saw that everything I had described was real." Academic studies confirmed that breakfast abundance achieved ideological transformation more effectively than formal re-education programs. The daily ritual of eating meals that exceeded German civilian rations while imprisoned by enemies systematically demolished Nazi superiority myths. Every morning became a lesson in American industrial capacity, democratic values, and the power of productive abundance over conquest and extraction. Modern Germany reflects the complete transformation that began with impossible breakfasts in American prison camps. McDonald's operates over 1,400 restaurants across Germany, serving breakfast combinations that would have seemed fantastic to German prisoners in 1943. Starbucks coffee shops occupy prime locations in German cities, offering unlimited refills and luxury beverages that exceed the coffee abundance former prisoners remembered from captivity. The historical lesson remains profound. Ideological transformation achieved through generosity rather than punishment, abundance rather than deprivation, demonstration rather than propaganda. German prisoners who couldn't believe pancakes and bacon in American camps became witnesses to democratic prosperity, carrying home revolutionary knowledge that freedom created plenty rather than scarcity. They learned that America's secret weapon wasn't military might, but the ability to serve impossible breakfast to enemies every morning without concern for cost or waste. These men experienced democracy's ultimate power, abundance so vast it could be casually shared with those who had sought to destroy it.